Welcome everybody to GeoHug. So before we kick off today's session, I'd just like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional lands which we're all coming from today. I live on the beautiful lands of the Gadigal of the people of the Aurora Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and future. So I'm so excited to have Marat Khakimzhanov joining us today. So Marat is an accomplished exploration geologist with 15 years of experience in Central Asia and Kazakhstan, where he's worked with leading consultancy firms and major mining companies in the region. It's going to be amazing to learn from him today about the geology of uranium ISL deposits in Kazakhstan, the origin of more than 40% of the world's uranium production. So it is going to be an amazing session. I hope you all enjoy it, and please use the chat. We'll open up the floor at the end. And yes, thank you so much, Marat, for joining. It's amazing having you.
First of all, Jessica, thank you very much for organizing all this GeoHug initiative. It's a very good one, excellent. So people can learn something new from new regions, new geology directions. So it's a very good one. And my congratulations with the 3rd year anniversary. So excellent. Thank you very much. And then about the Kazakhstan. So we'll be speaking about the geology of uranium ISL deposits in Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan is producing roughly about 40% of worldwide uranium production. Yeah, and on the left, you see the nice, beautiful picture of the Zhalpak deposit located here. So it's a very beautiful picture then. Let's go. So about myself, I'm a geologist with almost 15 years of experience in exploration and consulting, mostly in Kazakhstan, but with some experience worldwide too. So different type of commodities. So very happy to share the knowledge today. So about the Kazakhstan, Cam made a very good introduction about Kazakhstan, but just as a picture, I would like to show it's located in the heart of Eurasia, so between east and west, between the north and south, so right in the center. And this is actually the place where the Silk Road was in the past located, and the first trade routes actually gone through the Kazakhstan and Central Asia. If we speak about the Kazakhstan, I just want to do some kind of short introduction about the Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is about 2.7 square kilometers in area, so this is roughly the same size as the Western Australian state. And right now we've got the new mining code from 2017, and this new mining code is actually based on Western Australian code, and this brings to Kazakhstan quite a lot of investors, international mining companies, and they kind of working right now Kazakhstan effectively and quite a lot. And we've got plenty of Kazakhstani companies too, like for example, like Kazakhmys, Kazminerals, ERG, Kazatomprom, which we'll be speaking because Kazatomprom is a state company which operates in Kazakhstan on all uranium deposits. So it's all the deposits is actually mined out with their involvement. There is gold companies like Altimelmas and ERG Gold. From the international companies in Kazakhstan, we've got the Glencore, Rio Tinto, Fortescue, First Quantum and Barrick mentioned that they want to come to Kazakhstan too recently in the news, as well as Russian companies like Polus, Polymetal, and Russian Copper Company. So quite a lot. And today we will be speaking, and actually, yeah, just one moment about this. You see the beautiful picture of Kazakhstan and all this blue area, which is actually today available for the licensing in the country. And we will be mostly speaking about the uranium industry, and this is located in South Kazakhstan, most of it. So the exports, what is Kazakhstan actually exporting in? Kazakhstan is mostly exporting the petroleum, as mentioned by the CAM, but there is a part of this export from the minerals is natural uranium, its compounds and mixtures. And this is 2.7% of our export of the country. But when you look at this 2.7% in the worldwide perspective, and if we speak about 2019 figures, because I'm trying to show you pre-COVID time figures, because recent figures are not available. COVID time figures, they're obscured by COVID. And the 2019, this is actually what should be going on right now in the existing market conditions. And Kazakhstan is producing more than 40% of the uranium worldwide. So we play quite a big role on the market. And why is that happening? Why is Kazakhstan, how to say, taking this role? Because before the 1997, Kazakhstan was not really producing much uranium. There was a few uranium productions. But in recent 20 years, actually, Kazakhstan became the #1 in producing uranium. This is all related to the in-situ leaching method, which is kind of, at least I know that it's mined out in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan too. This Navai deposit located in Uzbekistan. The rest of the deposits are actually located in Kazakhstan. And this graph, which showing the amount of uranium produced versus the C1 costs. How much is it cost to produce 1 pound of uranium? For example, I think right now the price of uranium stock market about $50 per pound. And you can see that Kazakhstani mines is actually producing this uranium from $10 to $20 per pound, the cost of operation. All other, except the Olympic Dam, of course, exceptional mine, whereas it's byproduct uranium, all other mines is actually operating at 40 plus, mostly dollars per pound. So it's pretty expensive. And this ISL leaching makes a cheap uranium produced in country. And if we look at the resources and the ore reserves for the Kazakhstan, you can see the mineral resources according to the JERC estimate. Just one comment. Recently, I think in 2018, the Kazatomprom company, the Kazakhstan state uranium producer, they got listed. They got an IPO for the London Stock Exchange. They got IPO there, and the resources of the company is actually the projects where they involve, but by all means, that means the all uranium projects in Kazakhstan, which is in operation, is 2 billion pounds of uranium. If we count it in tons as a metric units, it's 784 kilotons of uranium. That's quite a lot. So it's huge resources, lots of tonnages, and we speak of the ore resources, also another one exceptional. So the major part, 80%, is actually all in ore reserves. So 1.6 billion pounds of uranium is actually available for the mining right now. So it's huge, insane resources. And if we look at the demand and supply and the global market, it's a very funny fact that today the supply of uranium is less than the demand. Seems like there is lots of other third-party sources from stockpiles of uranium, but this is what's going on. For example, in 2019, the production of uranium was 54,000 tons. At the same time, if we look, what is the resources which Kazakhstan as a country has in uranium? And this is roughly about 15% of worldwide resources. Yep, Australia with its huge Olympic Dam have quite a lot of that ratio. But again, if we're coming back to the C1 costs, ISL makes a deal. And what it makes this 15% to look great and produce a very good one. So just to compare the production from different countries and Kazakhstan, for the last 10 years, Kazakhstan is producing usually more than 20,000 tons of uranium. And you can see just it's tier 1 all the time, and all other countries is actually producing comparable amount of uranium. So kind of ISL is making a deal here quite a lot. So a little bit about the history of exploration of uranium in Kazakhstan. The original exploration for uranium in Kazakhstan started during Soviet times in 1947, when the first exploration started, and the result of these exploration campaigns was in 1950s. There were hydrothermal deposits discovered in Kazakhstan. They were quickly commenced to the operation, and in 60s, 70s, they were producing the major uranium supply for the USSR. And those times, not many, how to say, attention was put to Mesozoic Cenozoic deposits, which is actually the Kazakhstan uranium deposits come from, because Mesozoic Cenozoics, it's a boring, not interesting, just a cover which is not containing lots of minerals. I think that was the original idea during that times. But the end of 1950s, there is a first roll front epigenetic deposit discovered in Uzbekistan, Uchkuduk, which is suitable for in-situ leaching. But one problem, and the same idea of Uchkuduk deposit was applied to South Kazakhstan. In 1960s, there was a bunch of deposits was discovered like Uvanas, Zhalpak, Shayan, Kizilkov. This is small deposits relatively to the what actually right now mined, but they were easy to find in the 60s. And but one problem was, okay, we found a deposit, but how we will mine them? In 60s, the idea of ISL was not very popular in USSR. Everybody was thinking about the conventional mining, like open pit or underground. But one problem, these Mesozoic, Cenozoic basin sediments, they are soft. They're sands, they're clays, they're not sandstones, they're not siltstones, so they cannot keep the stability of the walls or the workings, so it's unsafe. And in 60s, they find out that pilot ISL mining could be involved to mine these deposits. And the pilot plant was run on Uvanas mine first in 1969. And in 77, the actual production commenced on Uvanas, and that led to further exploration in 70s and 80s to deep depths of the basin to find out where's other deposits located, how big they are. And that led to major discoveries of this 2 billion pounds of uranium actually was discovered in the 70s and 80s mostly as a discoveries. And later it just was a detailed exploration mostly. And from 1997, the real commercial large-scale production actually commenced, and in 2000s, Kazakhstan started to be a leader of uranium production worldwide. So, where all these mines is located? If we look in Kazakhstan, as I said, the original discoveries were related to hydrothermal deposits located in northern Kazakhstan and southern Kazakhstan here, but they were not, how to say, big enough, and they were not covering the demand of the USSR, and as a result, more discoveries to happen. And geologists those times understand that it would be hard to find new deposits of the hydrothermal origin. And they started to look for new directions where to find. And they found out this Uchkuduk deposit in Uzbekistan here. Uchkuduk here located. And the same idea as Uchkuduk was applied to Kazakhstan, and that led to discoveries of these deposits and some of these deposits actually here. But the major cluster of uranium production is located here in the south. If we speak about this, about the geology. First of all, I was speaking about the Cenozoic, Mesozoic sediments, the basin. It's a Turgay-Aral basin, which is actually covers the southern and part of the western Kazakhstan and goes to the north and to the west. Yeah, and it's known for being kind of uranium, molybdenum, rhenium, selenium, rare metals, rare earth elements, vanadium, and heavy mineral sands. So this soft sediments mostly, and have been known. But actually, what is good about it, it contains this, for example, in Uzbekistan, this Kizilkum belt, where is this Uchkuduk deposit located, which I mentioned, and it's the old of the sediments which host mineralizations from Cretaceous to Quaternary. And that idea applied to Kazakhstan has actually led to these 4 regions, 4 uranium belts located in southern Kazakhstan. The most southern one is Karamurun-Karatau belt and Kizilkol-Shayan belt located. One is Paleogenic Kizilkol-Shayan, is more younger sediments, where is it located, and the Cretaceous one for the bigger deposits located here at the west. This is a Sirdarya basin, sub-basin, because actually this Turgai-Aral Mesozoic Cenozoic basin could be split into parts. One is Chusarisu basin, which is here, the major one, and the second is Sirdarya basin, which hosts the South Kazakhstani deposits of Kızılkoyun and Karamurov. In case of Chusarisu, which is located to the north, there is a Kanjugan-Urenkum zone, which is located in Paleogene sediments, and there is Inkai Munkuduk, which is located in Upper Cretaceous. So about the Chusarisu basin, we will be mostly emphasize on it because it's the major one. It has the major part of the resources and reserves and producing a lot. So as I said, there are two levels. One is a Paleogenic level and there is another Cretaceous level. And they not really overlap. They are at different levels, but mineralization is located at different levels, but spatially they also separate. And let me back for 1 second. One thing I forgot to mention, you see this lovely topography in the background. And you see that actually what drives the fluids of these systems usually, because this is related to the artisanal basins. And these artisanal basins actually got the inflow of water in the upper parts, whereas Kyrgyzstan, for example, or this Tianshan system in the southeast Kazakhstan. And it drives the water to artisanal basins, which go through these basins and outflow somewhere here in that part. So kind of the idea which is believed to be forming these deposits. And you see, this arrow shows this direction of the fluids movement, water movement in artisanal basins from the top higher parts to the lower parts, and actually result to the formation of these deposits. And this is how it looks like on section. If we look, this is the northwest, this is the southeast. So, and that's a simple section which shows where's the sediments, especially the sandstones, and we've got inflow of water in that part, in upper part of artisanal basin, and hydraulic head actually pushing this fluid to the northwest, where it's an area of relaxation. And one point we live on Earth, where the atmosphere contains oxygen. That results that this water, which starts to which entering this artisanal basin, is oxygenated. And that results to oxygenation. This oxygenation results to oxidation of the sediments. And this actually drives the water to these zones where the reduction oxidation barriers are present and where the precipitation of minerals take place. So a little bit about the stratigraphy. There are, as I said, two levels. This is the upper level is Cenozoic section of the Chusarisu basin, and this is where the Kanjugan and Murenkum deposits are located. And they are located in this Paleogenic mostly section part of it. Neogenic, Quaternary is not productive here, but Paleogenic is productive. And this usually sandstones, which, as I said on previous slide, is oxidized. If we go deeper, this is the Mesozoic section, like Cretaceous and Jurassic, which is lying on Paleozoic basement. We've got these Inkai deposits, which are related to the Upper Cretaceous deposits like Inkai, Agdala, Munkuduk. This is the major, well, Budyonovskaya as well. This is the major deposits which has most of the tonnage. For example, the Inkai and Budyonovskaya, each of them is about 150,000 tons of uranium. And besides of them, there is exploration potential around, and actually just two deposits with the surrounding areas, and Munkuduk probably worth about 1 billion pounds of uranium. So something about why is this uranium, why is it related to reduction oxidation fronts? How's it happening? is all about the chemistry and valency. So if we look, the uranium usually have the valency of 4+, and this is how it actually exists in minerals like zircon, sphene, monazite, xenotime, which usually have the origin from the magmatic processes. Uranium is usually a non-coherent element and tries to either to be a small, low degree of melting, if we're speaking about like carbonatites, which usually hosts monazite and xenotime minerals, or if we're speaking about like granodiorites, and it's non-coherent and trying to stand as long as possible within the magmatic, in the magmas, and that results to these magmas is being very felsic. And zircon and sphene try to be at the end, and then they accumulate to these minerals. So, and its substitution, actually, the uranium substitution is zirconium in these minerals, or titanium in sphene, for example. But when it gets to the surface, or the place where the lots of oxygen is present, the oxidized environments, the uranium gets its another valency, 6+, and this is the game changer, because when it's 6+, it gets bonded with the oxygen, and it gets 2+ charge, and it's getting mobile in the liquids, in the water. And especially if there is a carbonate, which is we have plenty of on surface, bicarbonate waters. It's actually what is leaching the uranium and driving it and mobilizing it. But nothing is working always. At some place, these oxidized environments get reduced. And again, it goes back to uranium 4+, the immobile state for uranium, and this is where it's reduced to uraninite and coffeinite minerals, and this is actually what makes the most of mineralization in Shusarisu Basin and Sidera Basin too in Kazakhstan. This is uraninite or pitchblende and coffeinite. So if we look at the epigenetic zonation, lots of words, a little bit complicated table, but it explains how the redox oxidation buffers, barriers are working in these deposits. If we imagine that the water, the oxygenated water, is coming from this, from the right side, and its reacts here is in a reduction environment and a redox buffer. And then in the end, we've got the outflow of reduced water, and where unaltered rocks are present in our artesian basin. So we've got first zone is oxidized environment, the zone where oxidation happened. The second zone is where reduction happening. And the third zone, again, unaltered rocks. And the first mineral, which is the first minerals which we will look at, is iron, because iron is very good marker of oxidation reduction reactions. And you will see that most of iron here is present with goethite, hydrogoethite in these fully oxidized and partial oxidized zones, or iron hydroxide zones, where it's actually 3 subzones in oxidation environment, whereas mostly iron is goethite, hydrogoethite, or ferrihydrite. So it's present here. When we go to the reduction environment, where neutralization is happening, here we start to have some hematite, and the same mineral is also present here, but here we start to have as well the siderite, pyrite, markazite, so sulfides and carbonates of iron. And they have here origin, which is at the beginning, it's diagenetic and epigenetic, could be mostly epigenetic at that side. And it changes to diagenetic only siderite, pyrite, markazite on that side. So it's a kind of transition from epigenetic to diagenetic minerals. And this is actually the major part how these deposits were historically discovered and explored, playing on this buffer of oxidation reduction series. There are other epigenetic minerals present here. the most oxidized environment is usually a pearlesite, the manganese oxide. And then there starts the kind of the precipitation of native silver, radium borite, so the sulfate complexes, radium leucoxene, so leucoxene, which actually shows the destruction of the titanite minerals, and pearlesite a little bit. And then we move to stuff to have here more sulfur-rich minerals like sphalerite. Here in these two reduction environments, well, as I mentioned, the leucoxene. And actually, worth to mention, this is the high-grade uranium mineralization. This is where the calcite siderite also is located. So calcite, as I mentioned, the carbonate, bicarbonate ions plays a significant role in mobility of uranyl ions. And this is actually why they also precipitate in this position, where's a high-grade mineralization, where's the release the uranyl ion and it's get bonded with oxygen or silicon to form coffinite and pitch plant. About the uranium minerals, it follows the same trends as the iron, so it's happening in the uranium, but here uranium is leached in oxidized zone where it has became U6 plus iron and uranyl ion formed, and it goes to the accumulation in the epigenetic uranium accumulation in the reduction front. And again, here we've got a depleted zone, subzone. Then we've got a geochemical anomaly or relic mineralization if something not yet fully oxidized or some ongoing process. Then we go to low-grade relic mineralization, which is still in the process of destruction. There is actually destructible mineralization. Then there is a high-grade mineralization where the most of uranium is precipitated. And then there is ordinary mineralization, low-grade mineralization, and geochemical anomaly in the most reduced condition. And when we go to unaltered conditions, we've got syngenetic uranium, which is usually a background concentration of 4 to 6 ppm of uranium. If you'll see here is uranium grades are shown and how they change with from oxidation to the reduction. The lowest grades in the actually leaching zone with the oxidation environments. And when you go to epigenetic accumulation, of course, you have the highest grades. And again, low grade, actually background concentration. This is the source rock of actual uranium, which is produced. So if we will simplify this picture, it seems like there is a bulldozer driving from the right side to the left, and it collects all the uranium, brings it, precipitated it here, and that process constantly moving and happening right now as a result of these redox front movements in the artesian basins. The other elements, there are multivalent metals, which have similar behavior like uranium, like molybdenum, vanadium, rhenium, selenium. They can be used as geochemical pathfinders as well, but not very, say, distal, unfortunately, but they might help to find you where is actually uranium, and they follow this the same way. Selenium tries to be just on reduction and oxidation border, and the selenium, uranium, vanadium, and molybdenum, they are more in reduction position. And all of these processes, they form the different weird shape of mineralization. Unfortunately, everything is not simple, like, for example, this. What happening was when we look at the books, they're usually the roll front deposit shown like that, beautiful, nice sac features. Unfortunately, there is many things happening. For example, if we speak about this area as being the oxidized rocks, and this is the reduced rocks, the sediment in the sandstone sand beds. There are sometimes the places where accumulation of uranium might be located in such pockets. river channel or something created, or window within the, if this, you look at this clay material, which actually looks like the boundary for the oxidation fronts. If there is a small window, for some reason, erosion happened when the upper line horizons were formed. That results that fluids actually start moving upwards and leave some uranium mineralization in the upper part or lower part. That makes exploration a little bit more complicated, because it's easy to find such thing, just applying, oh, it's oxidized, that's reduced, should be somewhere in the middle. But these parts are more complex. Minkuduk deposit. I love this old picture because it's roughly show us how the exploration of these deposits usually take place, because that is enormous amount of drilling to find these deposits, because you cannot just simply find out by doing the geophysics or geochemistry. You have to drill it to find, so it's complex. If you look at the step in the Chusarisu basin, actually the whole sub-basin is drilled by grid to find out these deposits. But this is how the original exploration was led. You might drill here, the first drill hole on the right side, where the oxidized horizon is intersected. That place, this is oxidation from the symbol. Actually, this is a forms. This is mineralization. And then you drill another drill hole, which would be several kilometers aside, and you find out everything is reduced here. And we've got oxidized here. So there should be a reduction oxidation barrier somewhere in the between. And you drill another drill hole and you will find out, oh, this is a basement. We drill to the basement and we see there is some oxidation happened. So there is a chance that mineralization should be to the left. And they drill another drill hole and they get intersection of the mineralization. Woohoo, we're good. And you don't have to drill even to the basement, because people understand that, yeah, mineralization should be here. But you see, there is more reduced rocks here, and it's happened, this horizon have been oxidized here. That's interesting. And if we've got this gravel sand bed, which should be more conductive and should run this reduction oxidation buffer happening. So you can drill another drill hole here. Oh, it's oxidized here, it's reduced here, so it should be in the middle. So it's like a fill in the gaps, start from the sides and then fill in the gaps, and to find out where is actually mineralization might be hidden. This is a beautiful, elegant picture, which I love. I love these old pictures. Then there is another giant deposit, Inkai. This is the biggest ISL deposit. The problem about these deposits, they have different names. They have a roll-form deposit name, they have an epigenetic deposit name, they have a hydrogenic deposits. So kind of complicated here, but you can see here on the right side, this is the ore bodies. And you see how wavy they are, and they're very beautiful and interesting. It's just, it's a beautiful body. I think everybody enjoys it. It's very nice. And you have to mention that there are different colorants. And this is because these deposits have a multi-layer mineralization. So for example, in case of Inkai, it starts in Minkuduk horizon. There is, I think, 9 horizons, productive horizons, and goes to Inkuduk horizons. They are described here, same as just mentioned here. And you can see that the lower horizon is actually located in that part of the field, of the well field, and this part of the high line mineralization is located in this northwestern part of the deposit. So it's very complicated. It's a huge amount of drillings. I think for Inkai, they probably spent about 1.5 million meters drilled. So 1.6 million meters. So it's kind of a lot. You can drill the Kazakhstan from north to south. Actually, it's a comparable distances of amount of drilling and size of the Kazakhstan from north to south. So such deposit, and it's host 150,000 tons of uranium. It's a huge, insane deposit. So if we will look at I was showing you the Minkuduk deposit. It's pretty simple, like in the book, and actually it's from the book. But if we look at the Inkai and the real life, it is complicated. If you'll see, this is actually marking the oxidized sandstone. And this is the reduction oxidation buffer, and you've got the uranium deposits, uranium mineralization in front of these buffers. And you can see that it can be very complex. You can have the mineralization above the oxidation buffer. You could have the mineralization at the front and slightly at the bottom of the oxidation buffer. And here's again, it's just low-lying gravitationally run mineralization, which actually shows that there is more permeable and easy way for the fluids to flow and precipitate here. Or it could be like that when you've got oxidation buffer, you've got remnants of mineralization within the oxidation buffer. So for some reason, oxidation has not fully happened yet. And here you've got again the rolling, very complex bodies. Or here it would be a low line. Actually, oxidation goes from the top of the horizon, mineralization at the bottom. So it's a lot of drilling to discover this deposit. Oh, look at that one. It goes just completely under the oxidation buffer, just remains there, and not everything works perfectly. Bulldozer is not working perfectly. Some scraps remains. Oh, in that place, it's hanging wall. So that's very complex, and this is completely nuts. You have to drill and to understand that there is a pocket of mineralization which have remained there in reduced conditions and not willing to run front. So very beautiful. So about the uranium play or uranium mineralization concept, this is just a summary. This is not supported by kind of studies or scientific articles. It's very hard to find about this type of deposits because uranium was a secret during Soviet times. But there are books which explains these systems, and I wanted to summarize it. For these uranium deposits of South Kazakhstan, how does it look like if we look at the energy, the leaching, the source, the transport, the trap for the mineralization, and the outflow? So for me, it seems like that the energy for all these deposits to be formed is a tectonics-driven artisanal business. This is all related to the recent uplifting happening in the Central Asia because of the Indian plate is actually intruding, moving to the north and actually smashing the Eurasian plate. And that results in creation of a lot of alpine tectonics from the Himalayan going to the Central Asia, to Pamir, Tian Shan, to the East Kazakhstan mountains like Altai. So all this happening at the same time and result of this. And this creates these tectonics and creates these artisanal basins. And then we've got the ligand. Ligand here is just oxygenated water and bicarbonate complexes, which can pick up the uranium, oxidize the material, pick up the uranium from the source rocks. And source rocks, it's unaltered, reduced sediments, usually sandstones and gravels and material in Shusarisu. And one prominent thing about the Shusarisu basin, this reduced unaltered sediments usually have a very high uranium average grade. So the background value is about 5 to 7 ppm. So originally the source rock is pretty enriched here. And the next thing is the transport, how you will transfer this metal from the source rock and ligand using the ligand. It's oxygenated water that oxidized immobile U4+ to mobile U6+ to form uranyl complex, uranium oxide complex ion, which will travel and meet the reduction buffer, redox buffer, where precipitation mineralization will happen, and as a result you will have nesterin and coffinite. And as a result, when reduction happened, you have the water, which is not oxygenated anymore. It's more reduced in composition, and it continues flowing through the artisanal basin and find a way to escape to the surface. Then I tried to do the kind of mass balance calculations for the Inkai mineralization. How much source rock do you need to form a deposit such as Inkai? So this is just fun, plain. A lot of assumptions, I cannot prove or disprove it, but for me it looks elegant, nice, and beautiful. So my idea is how to form a deposit which is a 300 million ton at 0.05 ppm uranium grade or 500 ppms, and to form 150 kilotons of uranium to save it in one place. So we've got unaltered source rock, which is usually, let's say, 5 ppm of uranium, which is hosting silicates and other minerals like titanite or whatever is available, zirconium, for example, because this Turgai-Aral basin also known for hosting the zirconium heavy mineral sands. So could be a pretty good source for it, or titanite, rutile, whatever. So this is the source rock. Then if we alter this rock by oxidation, let's think that we will leave only 1 ppm there, and 4 ppm actually will be taken away. So 25% is unavailable, actually 20%, sorry for the mistake. 20% is unavailable for leaching and oxidation. And 4 ppm actually leached and transported by this oxidation front. And let's say 80% is available for the oxidation, leaching, and being mobile as uranyl complex. And then there is accumulation efficiency. Let's say that it's only 25% will reach the proper place where the high-grade uranium mineralization will be formed. So 1 ppm, again, sorry, it should be 20. 1 ppm only reach the major known redox buffer, and the others are spread. Usually, for example, they could react with the reduced shales, which is overlying or underlying, whatever is possible. So just 1 ppm. So in fact, to form the Inkai deposit with the average grade of 500 ppm, you have to bring these 500 ppms to that place. It's enrichment 500 times. Or you need 500 tons of 5 ppm grade source rock to be leached, oxidized in order to accumulate 1 ton of 500 ppm mineralization. So if we do the mass balance, to form a 300 million tons mineralized material, you need 500 more source rock available. It's 150 billion tons of source rock, or 50 cubic kilometers. If we think that the thickness of the productive horizon where mineralization and oxidation is covering 100 meter thick, this is, for example, a case of Minkuduk deposit. It's 100 meters. I think in Inkai should be the same. So it should be a polygon of 20 by 25 kilometers, which is, for example, this shape on the right side of the screen. And if you oxidize this 100-meter thick 20 by 25 kilometer and focus it to this rectangle shape or this linear shape, you might find a such deposit as Inkai. If you're in proper, you've got a rich source rock, you've got the ligands and the driving force, like the tectonics and oxygenated waters. And then you make the redox buffer and you make this lovely 20 kilometers by 50 meters deposit like Inkai. So this is my logics, and I think it's pretty elegant idea, which is partly it's proved, some parts of it maybe not proved, but I found this very fun and I like it. So if we look what actually, that's good. We've got the mineralization by we found it. We done a lot of drilling to calculate, to get the resources, but what it makes mineable and what it makes so good actually, this is the in-situ leaching or in-situ recovery. This is the technology which is used in Kazakhstan. I think it's used also in other places like in States and being used for uranium as well. And in Kazakhstan, we use in-situ leaching. So for me, it looks like a perfect mining method. It's great. Yeah, of course, there are some questions about the environmental side because you should pump in the leaching solution, which is in Kazakhstan, it's usually the sulfuric acid. For example, usually it's 1-2% sulfuric acid to begin to enter, to start the leaching process in the stratums where mineralization is located. And it looks simple. You pump in the leaching solution. It goes through the layer where the uranium is located. It picks up, the reaction happens and it picks up the uranium as a sulfide ion of uranyl. Uranyl and sulfates get connected, get mobile. And you pump it out and send it to the plant. And you repeat this cycle all the time. You just have to drill the monitoring well to control the hydrogeological conditions because you should control you wouldn't like to lose your solutions to get some lost circulation or whatever. And you pump out about 2,575 milligrams per liter of uranium, which is 2,575 ppms actually. So pretty good one. You pump in, pump out, get the metal in the solution. And usually these well field is organized in this patterns, layouts. So there's a raw well field when you've got the injection drill holes at the both sides from the extraction wells. So you pump in from both sides and you pump out from the center. Or you can do the hexagonal system. When you've got the hexagons in the center of each hexagon, you've got extraction well and injection wells around it. So, and the spacing, for example, in case of Kazakhstan, the most of it is a 30 meters to 50 meters spacing. So it's a huge amount of drilling to mine this, but again, you do not destroy everything around you with a conditional mining as we used to do. But good, you've got the pregnant solution, which is actually where the uranyl sulfide is actually located. How to process it, and usually that goes to the processing plants, the treatment plant, which treat the pregnant solutions, get the uranium out, add some acid to make it proper pH and conditions, and pump it back. So it's actually a cycle. So everything is recyclable and continuous. You just add the reagents to run the reaction. And when you pump out your pregnant solution, usually it's sent to the ion exchange. This is a pregnant solution. When it goes through the resin polymer ion exchange, this is actually that stage of absorption. Pregnant solution comes in, absorption, and the solution goes back to the mining cycle. And this resin, when it's reached its saturation, it goes to desorption, to the back process actually, to get out the uranium ion from the resin. And this ion exchange, and a result of this desorption is you've got the rich eluate. This is the uranium, which actually goes back to solution, but in more concentrated. It's more concentrated in this solution, rich eluate. And after that, yeah, you just do the simple process, chemical process of settling the uranium to the solid phase, from the liquid to solid. And after that, on that stage, yeah, and then you just send it to filtration to split the solid parts from the liquids, and this solid part is actually uranium salts, and you send it to calcinating, the burning place, And you've got the you've got the U308 ready. So yellow cake available for you, and you can sell it. So pretty simple, elegant. Lots of these things are recyclable, so you can use it one and more times because, for example, the resin polymers, they can be, how to say, repaired and sent back to the processing plant. So it's everything is made in the same place on the mine, and the result of this mine production, just yellow cake, and you have just a small treatment plant which produces almost the final product, which you can sell. And something to speak about, why is the ISL? What I like about the ISL. This is, I'm showing you this is a Konrad copper porphyry deposit located in central Kazakhstan. This is the major copper producer in Kazakhstan and Soviet Union during the USSR times. It's working from, I think, the end of the 1930s, maybe beginning of 1940s. So it's a pretty big operation. It's 600 million tons of resources, 0.6% copper, and they produced probably 4 or 5 million tons of copper from that place. But you also have to mention that this is actually a big hole in the ground with lots of waste dumps all around it. So it's roughly about 5 by 10 kilometer area which is affected. And I don't know how you can manage that in future in order to stop acid drainage and many other things happening here. And besides of that, you've got the processing and a smelter located here. It's just 20 kilometers to the south from the Konrad mine, and you will have lots of these waste dumps. Not waste dumps, the tailings dams. These tailings dams, they're huge because, for example, for the comparison, this is Balkhash town where there's 80,000 people living, and these waste dumps, they're huge again, about 10 by 10 kilometers, and just standing here, and I'm not sure that it will be processed and what will happen to it next. So it's a big footprints of these operations. This is a good mine, but result on ecology, environment is significant. If we look at this is same view, same scale as was the previous pictures, and this is the Inkai mine, in-situ leaching operation. I can see that there are traces of drilling lines, profiles where the actual exploration and mining is happening, but show me even where there are actually on that image, there are 3 treatment plants located, I believe. I think there are 3 treatment plants. You hardly even see them. You see some roads here, but this is not a big hole in the ground. This is there's no huge tailing, so everything is way more cleaner, organized, and you just stop when the operation is finished, when the mine is finished, you just rehabilitate it. Looks nice, beautiful, good. For example, I think this is one treatment plant here, another treatment plant here, another one here. So that's it. So for me, it looks like for the uranium in Kazakhstan, the ISL is a perfect method which drives a low C1 cost, which brings the Kazakhstan to the top leader of uranium production in the world. So very happy. And thank you very much. I think on that I'm done. Thank you for your attention. And another beautiful picture. And also I would like to thank everybody who influenced during my geology career, as my current colleagues, as my past colleagues. Thanks to Pavel, thanks to Gilles, thanks to everybody who influenced me in exploration, geology, consulting. That was awesome, and it's still awesome, and I hope it will be even more interesting in the future. So thank you all.